Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And it is evening where I am here in Ireland. My name's Michael, and I'm going to make a little tutorial on setting up a application load balancer on the AWS Cloud Console. So when you do this, the first thing you're going to need to do is have a subscription with AWS or some access to the console. So for most people, you would be going to AWS.com. And when you go to AWS.com, well, since it is November of 2022, they're talking about reInvent, but they're also mentioning that in Europe, and I am in Europe, they are launching a new region in Zurich, Switzerland, which is pretty exciting. And they talk about some of the other products that they have that are pretty darn awesome. I just love cloud computing because there's so many great tools there. Anyway, reInvent is coming out, so coming soon to you. But that's not why we're here. We're here to see how to sign into the console. Now, I do have an account. However, I'm going to close this because I am a teacher and I have my class. I have a second-year cloud class and a fourth-year cloud services class. And we are working with Amazon Web Services, and we are part of the Amazon Web Academy. And the folks at Amazon have been truly wonderful to us at our campus. So we thank you, Amazon. I'm going to log in as an educator because I am the teacher. And I log in here to my AWS Academy account. And when I log in here, even though I'm the teacher, I am going to go into the student view. And we are using what's called actually this is the cloud architecting. That's not the class I wanted to go to. We were going to go to modules. But in this one, it actually has all the modules of this course. But that wasn't the one I wanted. The one I wanted was in this dashboard, but I'm getting access denied because I am the teacher and I'm currently logged in as a student. So let me log out, and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on the correct one. And I do not want it in Japanese today, so I will go and log in again. Now, folks, we are going to go again here into student view. You students out there would be already in the student view. So we are using what's called Learner Labs, and the folks at AWS have been wonderful. In the past, they had set up with a kind of a way to explore the cloud for students, but it had some limitations. So they came up with this, like it's a full-blown class that you're enrolled in. So Amazon, I thank you. And I'm sure my students do too. So I click on Learner Lab, and when I do, we see a big giant V there. And V is for Vocarium, which is one of AWS have partnered with Vocarium. And what they have done is set up my environment for me and my students. And in my environment, I have full access to the Cloud Console. I only have to hit Start Lab when I start and End Lab when I'm finished. Now, what's going to happen when I hit Start Lab? It's going to give me a console, interestingly enough. This was red, it's yellow now, and when it turns green, I'll click on that. But like I said, for most of you out there, you'd be going to that AWS.com, and you could get a free trial for a year, or if you have an account, you could just use that. But if you're part of the Academy, you'll be doing it this way. But anyway, we are using something called CloudFormation, which uses templates. You saw just their little image there saying that our template is now ready. And what it does is it takes this JSON template, JavaScript object notation, and converts it into our environment, which is just like amazing. So watch this. When I click this, it's going to spin up our environment for us. And it's going to be in West Virginia. And of course, once we're all done, we click End Lab. It's going to take our whole environment, even if we leave everything running, it's going to put it all into a little JSON script. Do you want to see what the JSON script looks like? How about JSON template for AWS load balancer? Okay, so we are going to make a load balancer. Let's go take a look at what the script would look like. It's going to look like one of these. Probably this one. Maybe not. Oh, let's skip that for now. Let's just go and show you how to make the load balancer. So we are going to be using EC2, which is their Elastic Compute Cloud, and what you're going to find is everything is in services. So once you go to services, we want EC2. Now mine says that because I was there the other day, but if you don't have anything there, or even if you do, you click on compute and it takes you to the compute services, and you click on EC2 and you wave your magic wand, and there you go. You see I have some key pairs and some security group. I do have a load balancer that I made the other day. Let's go take a look at my load balancer. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this one because I'm going to make a new one. So goodbye, load balancer. Now, the load balancing section is down here, and then we're going to be using something called a target group. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 5 virtual machines, and then we're going to add them to a target group and add that to the load balancer. Now, if you want to, you could make the 5 servers. When we say virtual machine, we in AWS call them instances. So they're actually real servers, and they're actually quite expensive, okay, for AWS to buy. But they rent them out to people, and they make money off that. And we don't have to buy these big expensive servers that we only want to use for a few hours or a few days. So that's a good deal. It's like if you need a car to drive, somewhere for a week with your friends to go on holidays, and then you don't need the car anymore. Don't buy a car. Get a rent-a-car, obviously. Okay, so it's the same kind of thing with the cloud. You don't have to buy infrastructure if you don't need it. Now, before we create the load balancer, why don't we make a lot of virtual machines? So we will click on, as I mentioned, they're called instances. Now, actually, as it turns out, I have a whole bunch of instances that I made the other day. So since we're going to make fresh ones, I am going to terminate all of those instances. And it says, are you sure you want to terminate these instances? And I say, yes, indeed, I do want to terminate these instances. So it says they have been successfully terminated, and we refresh the screen, and they're shutting down. Okay, so while they're shutting down, we had a Web 1 and a Web 2 and a Web Server 3, so we'll give them some different names. So anyway, the first thing we're going to do is, how about we call this Web, I don't know, dash server dash 1. Okay, so we'll stick with the name kind of like that. And we are going to be using Amazon. Now, I should mention there's a little script that we are going to be using. So when we're done, I'll put the script down in the little description. Now, I have the script. Where do I have that script? It's somewhere on my desktop, folks. I'm using Camtasia to record this, so you could see my Camtasia there for a minute. So here is a link to, there's my AWS Bootstrap script, and I will go and make this a little bit bigger. So it looks like Control plus will make it bigger. So here's Control and plus. So we have a bin bash, we have yum, which those Ubuntu users, it's the same as apt or apt-get, will install your updates. Installed, basically it's Apache, it's our HTTP daemon, that's the web engine. And then we're going to start that HTTP service and check config and make sure that it's on. We are going to change directories to the folder where we're going to have our index.html is going to be. Once we put Apache, it makes the Apache website and default web page, and it's called index.html. But we are going to change to that directory, and with this echo command, we are going to have it say, this is web server 1. And for the second one, we'll say, this is web server 2, this is web server 3, this is web server 4. And how about we type in hello world. Why are we doing that? Because it is customary to say hello world. Now let's go Control A, we'll select everything. I will now copy that, and I will save my updated file, and I no longer need that. And so I will go back to Camtasia and go back to the cloud. So as we were saying, we launched an instance. It's called Web Server 1, and we're going to make 5 of these. You can make as many as you want. You want to make at least 3, just so you can really see how the load balancer works. So we're using their Amazon Linux AL, which is a type of Debian Linux, and we're using this. It's basically a T2 micro, which is one of their virtual machines, one instance. It's Linux, and they're really charging us very little money. You're going to pay a higher price. AWS is giving us a very good deal. One virtual CPU, 1 gigabyte. Now we're going to stick with that, but Amazon will let you spend as much money as you want. It's like if you go down to the grocery store. They will, as much food as you want to buy, they will sell you all day long, okay? Probably. So you could get 1 CPU with 2 gig, 2 CPUs with 4 gig, 2 CPUs with 8 gig, 8 CPUs with 32 gig. This is cheap for us. For you, it'd probably charge a lot more if you're using a real subscription. But we can get extra large, huge, 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 as much money as you want to spend. They are happy to sell you stuff, okay? So basically, that is it. That's our instance type. Now, we do need a key pair. As it turns out, I have 2 classes. I have a year 4 cloud class and a year 2. So I'm just going to use our year 4 cloud services key. And we have security groups here. So what I'm going to do, though, I'll make a new one. Let's create a new security group. And the reason what the security group is, it's gonna it's kind of like a firewall. All the ports are going to be closed coming in, but it's going to allow port 22 so we can connect to our Linux instance. And now I've just clicked here and allowed HTTP traffic. We don't need secure because we're not using HTTP secure. We're just going to have a regular one, but that's very important. So we will use Launch Wizard 3, and from anywhere, this is going to be our network in our routing table for there. We have our storage here, and we're going to have just their attached volume. It's like a hard drive attached to your computer. But if you destroy the computer, basically everything's gone when this virtual machine instance is gone. Now, if you wanted to, we could indeed add more storage onto it. This is an EBS volume, so what that means is that when we destroy the machine, we can decide to keep this one. So our data will still be there if we want to, and we can even attach it to another virtual machine instance. Now, we don't need that, of course, so I will get rid of that. And we will go down now. Normally we just go launch instance, but we are going to go here. And there's a lot of things here that not Microsoft or Google, but Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, they keep adding more features. So AWS has added many features. So for example, we can decide if we want to have protection here. If we don't want anybody to accidentally delete it, we can enable that. It puts like a lock on it. CloudWatch will let us monitor our instance. There's a bunch of things we can do. We're going to leave those in the default. I'm not changing any of those. I'm going down to the bottom to the user data. I'm going to paste my little script there, and when it launches the virtual machine, this is called bootstrapping, where it's going to run that little script and put in the updates and start up the web service and make our little web page. So I got to remember to change this to web server 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as I do each one of these. It is launching my instance, so I'm going to just go up here. It says we were a success, and always look for this nice green. If it comes up red, it's like a red light, means stop. Green light means go. So we have these instances are kind of going away. Eventually, there's our new one is pending. See, so let's just go ahead and make a whole bunch of more machines, and we could call this one Web Server -2. And same image, same T2 micro, same key pair. We're going to go use that first security group. You can make as many security groups as you want, but there's no need to, since this one does everything we want. We're happy with that, and then we just go paste our little script here. But the thing I got to do is remember to change it. See, the reason why I changed this is because our load balancer, we're going to be able to see how it balances the load between all of the different instances in our load balancer. So we click there, success, launch instance. We're going to do more. I'm going to call this one Web Server -2. stick with the Linux and the T2 micro and our little key, and we don't have to open up that because we want to go and get the same security group for all of these, and we're going to get that in our bootstrap for our user data. And remember to change this one. What was that one? The second one we made 2. This one we're going to make 3. I think I remember to change the other one. Let's make sure that I remember to change those. If I forget to change it, I can always go back later and edit the startup script. Server 4, and we are going to go here for a key pair. Come on, key pair. And we're going to go here for our security group. And we're going to put in our server 4 script, and we're going to say 4. And we're going to go here, and let's do one more, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll check on those instances that we got rid of. They're still in the interface, but if we keep refreshing it, they will go away eventually. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. There's T2 micro. Get our key pair. This is essential. You need that key pair, and you need the security group. And if we don't open up that port 80, we won't be able to see our website. Okay? And if we don't paste our script in here, we won't be able to test it. And if we don't change this, we won't see if the load balancing is doing what we want it to do. So now, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have made 5 little servers. Let us see if the other ones are gone. They are working on being gone. So we have web server 1. There we go. So these are looking pretty good. Oh, this one has a small s. Not that it matters, but I like to have everything match, just so that it's nice and pretty. And now the next thing we are going to do, that was phase 1, was making instances. Phase 2 could be to make the load balancer and then add the target group, but I'm going to make the target group first. I'm going to show you it's going to be exactly the same. We had a target group from last time that I never got rid of, because that was my other load balancer. So let's try getting rid of it, because I did one the other day with my class, and now we're doing one for the video. And now I will create a new one from instances. You could set up the application load balancer here, but we are not going to do that. Instead we'll give the target group a new name. How about my November target group? Why am I calling it my November target group? Because it is November of 2022, and I just wanted to point out to you that AWS changes their console. So you could be watching this December of 2022. The whole console could be the same or could be different, or a year from now it could be different. So they're always changing it, but hey, get used to it. So we're going to stick with the HTTP. We need the health check. The health check is really good. What the health check does is uses something called ping. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with ping, but if you don't know what ping is, you go to the command prompt and we say ping www.google.com. So basically we're pinging the, how about if I spell it right? If we're going to ping the Google server, basically it sends something out called ICMP, Internet Control Message Protocol, and it's sending out a little echo request saying, are you there? And it's expecting an echo reply saying, yes, I'm here. Well, if it's still there. If it's not there, then it's not going to reply. And then we know that it's dead. Okay, but as long as it replies, we know that it's live. And we send out 4 echo requests, and we get 4 echo replies, and yes, we are happy. Google server is there. So we're going to be having a health check. And with our load balancer, it's going to keep saying, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? And it's going to keep saying, yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Okay. But remember when you were a little kid and you'd bug your parents, you're on the long drive in the back seat, you got sick of the 8-hour drive. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? They say, well, just shut up, kid. No, I'm kidding. The server doesn't care. You could just keep going all day long. Are you there? Yes, I'm here. Are you there? Yes, I'm here. Mr. Server, are you there? Yes, I'm here. Anyway, so why is that so important for the health check? Because what if the server becomes unhealthy? for some reason, maybe it crashes, who knows. So in that case, we'd stop sending instances to that, or we stop having the web services come down to it. Let me show you exactly what I mean, okay? Here we have an application load balancer, so we're going to do it with 5 servers. And basically what happens is the clients are here, so like we're just setting up one target group, but you could do it where you have 2 target groups, with and with the 2 target groups you can have one is going to have 50% of the load, the other one will have 50% of the load. You could divide it up here, and then this will get 25 and 25, and then here these one each get their share. So we're going to have the script ready. We do that. We've logged into our account. We've clicked on compute. We create a bunch of Linux instances with the script. We're creating a target group, and that's going to hold our servers. We are going to use an application load balancer. I'll show you there's a few other ones that they have. We're going to have our security group there, and the load balancer needs one too. And once it's completed, we'll be able to test it. And so basically what happens, you have a public-facing IP address that receives all of the web traffic. Then the load balancer takes that incoming request and from our website and distribute it to all the servers in the target group. But if one of the servers become unhealthy, then we stop sending messages, requests to that server and just send it to the other ones. And once the server that's not responding, once we think it's gotten rid of all of its users connected to it, which we call connection draining, we go ahead and get rid of it, and then we could spin up another one. Well, if we had a load balancer tied into it, it would definitely spin up another one. But that's another story, okay? So anyway, we are setting up our health check here, and we could put tags here, but we'll skip that for now. And we see all of these machines are now running, and we are going to add them all to our target group. We are going to register the targets, and now we have to say include as pending below, and we click there and it says pending below. And now we will go create our target group, and it's going to say there's my November target group. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can finally make our load balancer. So first of all, we made our 5 virtual machine server instances. Second of all, we added them to our target group. And finally, we go into load balancer, and we click create load balancer, and we see they had a classic load balancer, was the original one. Now this one is being deprecated, as they say. That's a fancy word that they use for saying they're going to get rid of it, okay? So people, you could use a classic load balancer, but we're not going to. The gateway load balancer is for another situation. But if you need high performance, millions of requests per second, as you might have like in Facebook or AWS or eBay or something like that, then you'd probably use a network load balancer. But since we have a website, we're going to use our application load balancer, which we will now click on create. And we have our application load balancer, and let us give it a name. And how about we call it my November 2022 load balancer. Okay, so it is November of 2022, and my name is Michael, and I am here in beautiful Ireland. And now, this is interesting. I like this network mapping. We're putting this on their default VPC. Now, however, we could, if we had our other VPCs there, we could add them to our own. Now what the VPC is, it's a virtual private cloud. It's basically, we're building this on a default little virtual private cloud that AWS built for us. But we could make our own, and if you make your own, you have a lot more control. You can set up your own little networking environment with your public and private subnets, which is a story for another day, okay? So we don't have any other VPCs, so we're just going to stick with our default VPC. It is going to have these IP addresses here, and one of the other things you're going to see here is that we can add it to a whole bunch of availability zones. This is really good. What this means is We are in West Virginia and in North Virginia, and in North Virginia they have 6 data centers. In a lot of regions you only have 3 of these options, but in West Virginia you have 6 different availability zones, which are basically 6 different data centers all in this region called North Virginia. So basically, why am I adding it to all of them? Because it's going to do better load balancing there. Select your VPC there, and then it says at least 2 availability zones, 1 subnet per zone. The load balancer routes traffic to targets in these availability zones only. Availability zones are not supported by the load balancer or the VPC are not available. So basically what this means is we're spreading this out across many different data centers, which is a good thing. Now, our security group, we need to create a security group for this because we have these ones, but I want to make one called, we're going to make a new security group. And in this new security group, we are going to call this, how about load balancer security group. Okay, so we're going to give it its own security group. And you don't have to put in a description. Descriptions are always optional. And we could choose another VPC if we wanted to, but we're not going to. Inbound rules, this is important because we see here, we're not going to need the port 22 to connect up with SSH, but we do need a custom TCP. We want to make sure that we open up the web for it. So let's go to HTTP, which uses port 80. We do need to give it a CIDR block. CIDR is complex interdomain routing, and this one right here is going to be the one, the route for the internet. It's a little routing table, and basically it's going to make it so that our stuff can come in. Okay, we don't care about it going out. We just need it to come in because we're going to be making requests of this web server. So there's a website sitting there, and we have to go and connect to it. So we create our little security group, and it's asking for a description. So how about, I'm going to just call it my ALB's application load balancer SG. Okay, and that is fine, and we will create our group, and now we have made that. So let's go see something here, folks. One thing we could do is I can show you that if we go to our instances, if we go and refresh, those other little guys that I terminated are still there, but we don't care about that. Our little friends are still here. I'm going to show you something kind of cool. Let's go to web server 2 and take a look here, and we have a little public IP address. So each of these have 2 IP addresses. We have a private address. This is Amazon's network. All the virtual machines are on this network. They're all connected internally. This is an external IP address. This is on the internet. If I click here, I should be able to see that Apache web page, or the web page that we put on there. We put on the one saying, hello world, this is web server 2. So I put in the IP address there, but watch this. With the load balancer, we are not going to use the IP address. No, what we are going to do is, we still don't see our load balancer. Where's our load balancer? Come on, load balancer. It could still be, oh, small detail, folks. How about we hit the one that says create load balancer? Oh, it's telling me to select a target group, which is probably the most important thing. Now, let me point something out to you here, folks. We created the target group first, but did we have to? No. What we could have done is we could have gotten to this point where we had made our virtual machines. Then as we're making the load balancer, we could go to create target group. And when we go to create target group, it's the same thing. We do the instances. We would give it a name. And then we would choose this. We would do the health check, and then we just click next, and it would make the load balancer. Does everybody see what I'm saying? So we are not. I'm just saying you could do it either way. You could either make the load balancer first, and add it like we did, or you could when you're making the load balancer and setting it up, then you can create the target group. So either way. It's going to do the exact same thing. So we don't need to add listeners here, and we're not going to use the global accelerator. And there's all our virtual machines, and there's the security group, and there's the listener. It actually has a default listener. What the listener does is it listens for incoming traffic. So anyway, we go create our load balancer, and we'll go view our load balancer, and there is our load balancer. Now, one thing I should say to you is it does take a few seconds for this to come up. So I'm going to pause the video for about 2 minutes, and I will come back. So just keep in mind when you do this, the load balancer won't be ready to demonstrate right away. So I'll be back in just a minute here, folks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just paused it, not for too long, about a minute, minute and a half. But we've made our load balancer now, and what we want to do is go down here into the description tab, and we see this is the name that we gave. This is the ARN, is the Amazon resource name, AWS Elastic Load Balancing. It's in US East, which is West Virginia. And there's our load balancer app, my November 2022 load balancer. So it's not the ARN we need, but the next one is a DNS name. Now you might be saying to yourself, but wait a second. A minute ago you went to that virtual machine number 2 and you clicked on the IP address. Aren't you going to click on the IP address here? And the answer is no, because we're going to use this DNS name is going to act like a pointer to the IP address of the load balancer. So it's not using the IP address of any of the servers, it's using the IP address of that DNS server. But this DNS name will point to it. So if I copy that, if I go up to a new tab on my browser, and if I go and paste it in there and hit the enter key, I should see my load balancer working if it is completely done. So here goes, and it says, cannot reach this page. So what we do is we hit the refresh button, and we hit it again, 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 and we hit it again. Let us try it again. Looks like it's trying to work here, folks. Now notice I called it an ALB, Application Load Balancer. Notice here it says ELB. Did they misspell this? No. It is an Elastic Load Balancer is what they call it. Let me try and refresh this page. And hold on, and refresh again. It looks like it's trying. Come on. It does take a while. Okay, folks, there seems to be an issue. Let us go troubleshoot. I'm going to go to the console here, and I will go down. We did create a security group for this, so let us go check our security group. We have a few. Here is the problem. It used the default security group, which does not have port 80 open. So we must go to the security group we created, but I must not have attached it. So I will click Save, and we will go back to my November virtual machine server, and come on, you can do it. Now, my web server 1, now it's working, so we know what the problem is. Now, what's going to happen if I keep refreshing the screen? Is it going to keep seeing web server 1, or is it going to cycle through all of the other 5 servers? There's 5 altogether. Will it cycle through them as a load balancer should do? Let us see. There's number 2, number 1, number 4, number 3, 2, 5. 2. It is working, ladies and gentlemen. As a great philosopher named Freddie Mercury once said, "We are the champions." So listen, folks, this is the end of my demo. But what I would recommend to you is when you're all done, you really can't stop the load balancer, because once you turn it on, you have all those machines. Well, so the best you can do is turn off your machines. So I recommend you do that. So let us go here, and we are going to go to our instance state, and we are going to go terminate them. Not terminate, sorry, we are going to stop them. And if we stop them, then they will not be running. And if they are not running, they will not cost us money. Okay? So now we've stopped everything or terminated the other ones. And what we are going to do now is just review everything we have done. So folks, we made an application load balancer with 5 servers distributing the load among them equally, so each would get 20% of the load. And we had a little script that we ran there. And we went into compute, made some EC2 instances, Elastic Cloud Compute Cloud. We added them to a target group, and then we added the target group to the load balancer. But as I said, you could make the instances and then make the load balancer, and then add the instances to the target group, and then add the target group to the load balancer. Just remember about the security group, you got to open up that port 80, which I'm kind of glad that happened, because you got to see how important that was. Okay, so once it's completed, we could see that it was using that one public-facing IP address and balancing the load among all of that. Okay, so we did stop all of our instances, and I'm not going to delete it today, but go check it, make sure that they don't start back up again. And anyway, listen folks, I'm going to wish you a happy weekend because it is Friday night here, and I am going to go grade papers for my wonderful students. So I'll see you in the next video, folks, and goodbye.